Hey everybody, this is Jeff Cohen from Seller Labs, and I wanted to share a story with you. So we don't talk about sourcing a lot on our blog. Actually, in our community, we don't talk about sourcing a lot. I mean, I know that in the greater community, sourcing's a big deal, but Seller Labs doesn't really focus on sourcing. But I recently worked with Tim from Hickory Flats, and we had some things come up while sourcing a product, and I wanted to share them with everybody and then kind of explain like what happened to me and what it means. So this is Tim Jordan from Hickory Flats. His company does sourcing trips and things like that. We'll let him kind of say that at the end. But here's what happened. And I'm kind of curious like what your response to this is. I asked him to source a product, and his team came back with recommendations of manufacturers in China for that product. And the prices for that product had more than doubled than when I had sourced that product a year ago. Now, I had experienced this on my own, and that's why I went to Tim, was like, oh, can he find something better for me? And so when I kind of brought that to you and I was like, why are the prices so high? You know, what was your reaction to that?
So this is something that we actually see a lot. You know, it's very common. And what's happening is we forget that the Chinese suppliers that we're typically dealing with are really good businessmen too. And they follow the laws of supply and demand. So imagine this scenario. I'll give you another scenario that recently happened. Weighted blankets for autism and therapy, right? That a year ago was probably a decent product into, completely saturated now. But we had manufacturers that were giving us a really, really fair price. But as the product gets more expensive, these Chinese manufacturers are tracking search volume on sites like Alibaba. So we've got Jungle Scout and Scope and all these other pieces of software. Well, they do too. So what they do is they notice, hey, the search volume for Jeff's product or for weighted blankets is substantially been increasing over the last 3, 6, 9 months. So they know that the price is going up or the demand's going up. They can raise the price. The other thing is this. There's only a limited number of suppliers in China of weighted blankets or of Jeff's product. As the product is becoming more popular and inevitably becoming more saturated, their workload is getting full. Yeah. So what they're saying is, hey, we already have so many inquiries coming in. Let's start jacking this price up. We'll sell less, but with the increased demand and increased volume coming in with these inquiries, we're going to have a lot higher price margins. So what we figured out, and really I've never talked about this on camera before, so first one, the Seller Labs audience can hear this. There is absolutely a direct correlation between responses from Chinese suppliers and the likelihood of an item becoming very quickly saturated.
Yep.
Okay? This is huge. So what I was basically able to tell Jeff is, hey, I know you've already got this product launched, you might be okay, but if you were starting from scratch with a brand new listing, what I can tell by the response that the Chinese suppliers are giving me is that a lot of people are looking for, demanding, and requesting this exact same item. So it's not anything that we can put on a spreadsheet. There's not a piece of software that can make that correlation for us, but it's a really good indicator.
So in this instance, I made a decision to stop selling the product because the increase of the cost made the product non-profitable. And did I say non-profitable? Not profitable, unprofitable. And I needed to just kind of move on. And so it was interesting because it was a reading of the tea leaves. And we talk about analysis by paralysis by analysis and all these other things and being emotionally attached to a product. But this was an instance where I had to say, the math just doesn't make sense. I can't bring this product to now, and there's tariffs I have to consider on this product and all these other things. So all of a sudden, this product that was a highly profitable product that I was selling over 15 units a day, I have to walk away from.
Yep. And the other thing that kind of piece of information and lesson we can take from this has to do with relationships with Chinese suppliers. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people get their feelings hurt, okay? A lot of people will try to source something that's too expensive. They get mad at us as a sourcing agent, or they get mad at the Chinese suppliers. Oh, they're trying to rip me off. That's not the case. It's just business, all right? So don't get worked up in a tizzy. Don't feel like someone's trying to cheat you. It may be that they are at capacity in the factory and the price is going up, or they're just good business folks. But I think that we, especially like in the U.S., where the majority of us are located, we have, let me speak for myself, all right? Let me tell you how I used to think, and I suspect that a lot of you think the same way. The Chinese suppliers need us more than we need them, okay? They have to give us the cheapest price. We have all the leverage. We have all the negotiating power. We can puff our chests out and say, you're going to give it to me cheaper or I'm going to walk away. And they're going to come back and say, okay, we'll do it. And occasionally that happens. But listen, I'm in China a lot. I've been in some nasty, dingy manufacturing cities in the middle of China, and there are Rolls Royces and Bentleys and Porsches and Jaguars driving like you wouldn't believe. They are covered up in work, and it's because e-commerce is taking off. So the majority of Chinese manufacturers, this is a misconception too, people think like the big factories, big smokestacks.
Right.
95% of manufacturing in China is done in small family-run shops. Now, I might walk into a 40-foot by 40-foot building that's a factory, and they've got the most state-of-the-art plastic injection molding machine. But it's a dirty, dingy little building, right? But the truth is, with e-commerce looking for all these small manufacturers, they're crushing it. They're all making money. The wealth is expanding. And things are starting to turn where we need them more than they need us. So here's my challenge to you when it comes to sourcing. As those prices go up, as you're working with these suppliers trying to get business done for yourself, understand that we are losing a little bit of that leverage that maybe we had 5 or 6 years ago. And you need to at least I needed to, again, I'm projecting this, but yeah. I needed to reverse my thought and know that instead of beating my chest at them and saying, you're going to give this to me cheaper, I'm going to walk away, figure out how you can provide value to that manufacturer. Nobody's talking about this. So I will actually help the manufacturer sometimes, and I'll say, hey, what products do you personally have? And they say, well, maybe we're selling this in a different market. I say, well, let me help you with the packaging. Let me translate this for you, right? In addition, can you make this for me, not compete against me, sign like a non-compete clause, do whatever you need to do. But as you build that relationship, that is super powerful in China.
So yeah, that's I think things people don't really understand is like the value of going to China and the value of building a relationship, because you're essentially you're a Skype or a WeChat to them, and until you're as soon as you become a face to them, then they treat you completely differently. And so I know everybody can't go to China. I think that's a great recommendation of ways to build a relationship if you can't actually get there, in a way to kind of provide some value. So for people that want to get a hold of you, kind of tell a little bit about who you are, what you guys do.
Okay, so Tim Jordan, you can track me down on YouTube. I provide a lot of free content revolving around sourcing, shipping, and just brand development in general. I don't even like the term private label, because a lot of people think of just a label. I like private products, which you can definitely find. Hickory-flats.com, that's the website, hickory-flats.com.
We'll put that in the notes.
Yeah, put that in the notes. We'll put it down here. Also, if you want to get involved in some of the new methods that we're using in private label, some of the new techniques for building, I said private label, but for brand development, product development, check out our sourcing retreats. All right, if you're interested in sourcing in China, come to China with us. We do like an 8-day private label boot camp, and you can literally meet thousands and thousands of suppliers on this trip. And now we're also doing the same thing in Central America, where we are successfully launched and launching more brands for ourselves and for our clients with fair wage, fair trade practices, telling stories around a brand, and doing something really, really different from most people. It's really cool.
Yeah, so we've promoted some trips to China in the past, and so it's something we've often told people they should consider. And it's something you should, keep in your back pocket as something potentially for the future. One last thing before we wrap this up is we wrote a white paper about a year or two ago called the China Gold Rush. Put a link to it below. And what's really cool about the China Gold Rush was that it was written from an expat who lives in China, really talking about what's happening in the Chinese culture. The rush for riches that's occurring, the change of mentality of the Chinese, and this is kind of like the art of war, right? Like you have to know your competitor, and like dealing with somebody in China is not like dealing with somebody in the U.S. And so it's a good read. It's a read that you should invest into, because it's going to tell you like what's important to them. And if you want to be a good business person, you have to understand what's important to somebody else before you worry about what you want for yourself. And so if you're going into this situation and you're trying to tell them, you have to do this for me, you have to do this for me, you have to do this for me, you'll get nothing done. If you find a way to build a reciprocal relationship, something I talk about a lot, you're going to come out of this in a manner that's going to be helping both of you grow. So I'm glad I could share with you guys a little bit about some sourcing that I've been doing. And if you have other questions, let us know. Maybe we'll bring Tim back on and do more of this in the future. So thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
All right.
And cut.